reviewing the scientific literature to answer your questions about gender diversity. This is Classroom Psychology. And now here's your host, Dr. Cora Sargent.
Hello everybody and welcome to Classroom Psychology. I'm your host Cora. Thank you so very, lots of berries much for joining me. It's wonderful to see you. Hop on in here. Listen, this holiday season, so I'm doing some new things. I wanted to check in, say hi, make sure you're okay. I know that this season can be really difficult for gender diverse people, for LGBTQIA2 plus people more broadly too. And not least because it's spending time with family. I know that last Christmas I spent time with some extended family and friends, and even me, 10 years into transition, even me, I had a situation where a friend was, without realizing, deep in her cups, was referring to me as he, consistently, like over and over again, referring to me as he. And each time she did it was like a knife in the dark. It was profoundly painful to be a part of. And people who knew me really well were around the table and they could see and they were like, oh, Cora, and they let her know quietly off to the side one point, and she came and apologized afterwards. But it's, it's fine. I can't, in a sense, I always say family gets a free pass. I always say that because, hey, family gets a free pass, right? Like, it's always really tricky for family to get it right consistently. They knew me before, and, my guess is that that particular person might use he to refer to me privately, which is upsetting, but that would explain why she uses he, more commonly, even though I was like I wasn't even dressed particularly androgynously, right? Like, I was dressed, it doesn't really matter how I was dressed, does it really? But, no excuse. So I know intimately what it's like for our kin, and that's like at the totally mild end of the spectrum, right? Maybe you feel like your family, and maybe they don't, maybe they don't accept you for you. Maybe some people find it really hard. Maybe you get invalidated more frequently. I guess what I'm saying is, I know some of that pain. All gender diverse people know that pain because we all have been in that circumstance where people take some time or they don't come around ever. And that does sometimes happen. And we know that this kind of time of year can therefore be really painful. So I just wanted to record a little episode and say, hey, I see you, you're valid. However you identify, wherever you find yourself on the beautiful gender tapestry that we see our kind and kin weave before us, wherever you land, you are valid, and surround yourself with the people who love you and understand you and find community. And in the, most difficult circumstances, find family, right? Found family is a principle of our community for as long as it's been, because our families don't always accept us. And so we find family in the community, other people like us who understand us. I also wanted to check in because, it's been a year. It has been a year from the CAS review to the ban on puberty blockers, to the was it Crown Prosecution Service releasing its guidance today on deceptions as according to sex, which highlights that if transgender people don't tell someone they're trans, if they don't come out to somebody before being intimate with them, they could be breaking the law, deceiving them in inverted commas as to who they are, as to their sex in inverted commas. For me, that that guidance, prosecution guidance, that hit me really hard. I don't even know why it hit me so hard, but it absolutely hit me hard. I think when you see official documents like that saying essentially, oh, you're a boy and you need to tell people, like is painful, really painful. That one hit me hard. And then, of course, Donald Trump spending record amounts of money on anti-trans ads in the United States. And then, in spite of that, maybe in some way because of that, at least in part, Donald Trump then gets elected into office towards the end of this year. And that paves the way for a future that looks incredibly and increasingly problematic for our kind. Before we even start to talk about, the challenges that face the world in terms of global stability, in terms of global leadership and governance, in terms of global, of people, seemingly massive global powers acting with impunity, increasing impunity, to climate change, to the challenges as AI continues to exponentially climb into the stratosphere with its capabilities. It's a world that increasingly seems unsafe. And for those of us who are gender diverse, it just seems very unsafe for us too. So I wanted to check in and say to you that I see you, I'm there with you, and it's real tough out there right now. And next year, Donald Trump is going to become president. And the UK government, is a Labour government, and they have extended the puberty blocker ban indefinitely, even though even the Cass review didn't call for that. And the new Crown Prosecution Service guidance, the moves that have been made in, the statements that are being made, the ban on puberty blockers comes from a Labour government that will still be in power next year, that's supposed to be the government of our people, right? They're supposed to be the people that we can rely on, that we can look to make space for us to exist, and they seem to be doing the opposite. So for sure, it looks pretty dire out there. And I look to what's happening and I feel it too. Like, I feel a little bit unnerved. But I'm not here to listen. I'm not here to make you feel terrible about the state of the world. The state of the world does look pretty dire. Does look troubling. But what I have found is that even in the most difficult circumstances, maybe because of the most difficult circumstances, our people, the people around the world marginalized by a heteronormative, cisnormative view of gender, they find each other, they find their voice, and they make themselves heard. Trans kids deserve better are working their asses off, trying to kind of get their voices heard. Amazing podcasters like What the Trans, are you kidding me? Incredible group of people working together to make sure our voices are heard. And of course, in our own humble little way, you've got Classroom Psychology that will always be here. I know I haven't released an episode in about a month, and the reason for that is because I have 3 new episodes in the pipeline. The first of which I think is going to be about voice. And you can hear, hey, I've been working on my voice, not least because I have increasingly felt weird about my voice in the current context, and a little bit because I want to be able to hide more easily. Speaking always makes me feel extremely self-conscious, and like everybody's going to know I'm trans the moment that I open my mouth. And that wasn't always the case. So I'm working on it. You can be the judge of whether or not it's being successful, but I'm working on it. And hey, we're still early days. So we're going to do an episode on voice, tracking what happens when somebody like me engages in voice training, and we'll see where we wind up. We're still only day 14, 1 training session. So hey, we've got a long way to go, you guys. We've got a long way to go. But, we'll do an episode on voice. I've got a couple of other really big episodes in the pipeline. A cool interview with Dr. Abigail Vines, which is recorded and just needs a bit of editing, and then we'll release it. And then, we got another episode with, which is going to be a little bit special. a little special episode. This is going to be secret until it comes out, but it needs a lot of work. So we've got a lot of work in the pipeline. But what that means is that 2025, I'm going to be here. I don't know if that provides you any real reassurance. I don't know what that does, that I am here. Maybe nothing at all. Maybe nothing. Maybe you lament the idea Cora's going to still be here for another year. But all I can promise you is that as long as I am here, I will keep doing new episodes. And if there's one thing I can absolutely count on, it's that governments around the world, particularly these right-wing populist governments, and Donald Trump and Elon Musk, Elonald, heard somebody call him this morning, Elonald. Listen, if there's one thing for sure, it's that they're going to make some pretty bold, declarative statements about gender, and that's going to give us the chance to take those statements for the questions we're sure they're intended to be, and we'll see if we can't find an answer together, reviewing the scientific literature. And if there's one thing I know, it's that the scientists in our community and that are interested in our community, they are still doing the work. Amazing, big, important research being conducted and being published all the time. And that means we are going to have a great deal of opportunity to take those questions and see if we can't find new, novel, nuanced answers to some really important and exciting questions. And then maybe by bringing all that together into year 3 of classroom psychology, maybe as a community, we can come together and realize that the science is behind us in understanding that gender diversity is absolutely real. It's not a social contagion, you guys. It's absolutely real that gender diverse people deserve responsive access to sound medical care, and gender diverse people can find one another, create community. And in so doing, we will create a world where everyone can find a place to belong. Thanks so very much for joining me for these 2 straight years of classroom psychology, 35 episodes in. And before long, we will get to 36, and you and I will work together, and we're going to do some stuff next year, y'all. We're going to do some amazing stuff, I promise you. Look after yourself this season, this holiday season. Please surround yourself with the people who love you. Remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are you. And I'll look forward to seeing you, as always, in the next one.